please welcome Hsieh.
Good evening, everyone. You know, education is a core focus area, not just for us at SAS, but also for many here tonight in the conference. Am I right about it? Oh. All right, that was a little, yeah, you can do better than that. Where are my students and educators at? Am I right about it? You guys really are the future, and we're grateful for that. You know, and tonight I want to take a few minutes and just update you on another core focus area for us here at SAS. You know, one of the most popular videos that comes out of this conference every single year is the video of how you, our users, are using SAS to do good in the world. And it inspires us to continue to push the boundaries of all the good that analytics and data can do in the world. You might recall that last year, we launched a Data for Good crowdsourcing app called GatherIQ on Apple devices. And to date, GatherIQ has been downloaded in over 72 countries. And we announced recently that anyone with an Android device or access to a web app on a PC can now participate too. Now, GatherIQ is a community where you can share your expertise and your passion for analytics to support causes and organizations that are relevant to you. Now, over the last year, we've learned that the number one way people like interacting with GatherIQ is sharing what they've learned from the app and raising awareness about the causes that they care about. So this year, we've introduced a new open design that makes it easy for you to share your discoveries with your friends by mail, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. Now, tonight, I want to introduce you to a new project in GatherIQ that is truly global in scale. Back in September of 2015, 193 countries agreed on the 17 goals for a better world by 2030. And those goals are called the Sustainable Development Goals or the Global Goals by the United Nations. Now, we believe that analytics can be used to inform the decisions that we all make as we work to achieve these goals. So we've partnered with the GoalsCast, a podcast series created to tell stories and raise awareness about this global plan. Now, SAS has agreed to be their data visualization and analytics partner to help their listeners see the stories through the data. Now, before I bring out one of the co-hosts of the Global GoalsCast, let's bring the lights down and just listen to a segment of their program.
I could have not had the opportunities I've had if I had been over there. I would have not gotten to intern for Google or even have a job with them now.
Brenda illustrates the power of migration, as well as the drama and the risk. As a fifth grader, she forded the Rio Grande into Texas from Mexico because her parents wanted a better life for her.
My stepdad actually came to the States first, and he saved a lot of money, so he paid the people that passed us what we call coyotes. We went up to Tamaulipas in Nuevo León, so that state at borders Texas, by bus, and we went to like this car dealership, and they came back for us early in the morning. All I would remember is just run, get to the river, take off your clothes. They put us in like this floating thing. We were doing this in June.
Please welcome with me, Claudia Romo Edelman.
Thank you for having me here.
Claudia, we love the Global GoalsCast here at SAS. And I thought maybe tonight you could share with our friends, why you wanted to create this series about the global goals and some of the stories behind them.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, first of all, thank you for having me here, because the stories that we're telling in the Global GoalsCast are worth telling. The Global GoalsCast, as you rightly said, is the podcast about the Sustainable Development Goals. And we have the trust of more than 12 UN agencies and more than 45 NGOs that are giving us their stories to be told to the world. And we're lucky to have the best partners in the world in every industry, the best partner in every industry, including SAS. So the Global GoalsCast loves SAS. But let me tell you why these stories really matter. The global goals are the master plan for the future of the people and its planet. And it's a historical agreement agreed by every single country in the world. There is no plan B, but there is no planet B either. And this is really a historical moment. We are the first generation that can stop, that can end extreme poverty. We are the last generation that can stop the impact of climate change. And for the first time in a long, long time, we're in a position to elevate the playing field and to do it for all. And I know that we're surrounded by bad news and sad stories everywhere that is making us shut down, but I assure you there's a great deal of beauty out there. There's a great deal of progress happening in the world, and that's exactly what we want to tell in these stories in the podcast, because as humanity, we are making progress. And this podcast, I-Sah, was born by the necessity to actually be telling that story of progress so that we know, yes, it's working, let's keep on going. And let's highlight the stories of the champions that are making those differences, like SAS. Because we know that everyone has a role to play, and we know that we can make a difference, and that we're making a difference. And everyone that is doing something good is part of the Global GoalsCast. Whether you know that you belong to the Sustainable Development Goals or not, it doesn't matter. That's part of what the plan is.
Well, you know, I think it's really interesting that in addition to the amazing stories that you tell on your podcast, you were inspired to also make data visualizations and analytics available to your listeners as well. Why did you feel that was important?
That was essential, because people need to make sense and understand the world in which we're living. And by being able to listen to a podcast and then dive into the interactive visualization, it allows us to move the audiences from passive listening to active engagement. We want to inspire action. And whether you respond to a story of someone, like the girl that we just heard, or data, if you become curious, and if we help you to see the world beyond those headlines, beyond that tweet, then we are making headway. This audience, I-Sah in particular, has a great power to help the world understand and explore the issues that we are facing in my world through a different lens.
Now, Claudia, you know that migration is a hot topic in this country, right, and in the world. And it's the topic of some of the reports that we're featuring in Gather IQ as a part of our partnership. Now, why do you think it's important that we consider migration when we think about the global goals?
Is that the world is in the move. The people will continue moving, and that's not going to stop. It's not going to change, and actually is more than ever before. Migration is essential, and it's important to deliver every one of the 17 global goals.
You know, and just to get us all on the same page, the word migrant simply means someone who is not living in their country of origin. Am I right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, so, you know, it's so fascinating to look at the visualizations from the UN's migration data and to just play with it and gather IQ. And I love seeing exactly where people are coming from and where they're migrating to.
I-Sah, migration is a very, very complex issue. And people move for a variety of reasons, because of education, family, civil unrest, natural disasters. We have to use data and analytics to help us navigate through the unprecedented challenges that we're facing, but also the unprecedented opportunities that migration is facing and is bringing us. For example, I would love to know, we need to understand migration, and we need to understand, have migration patterns changed over time? Do natural disasters affect migration patterns, and how? What is the size of the informal economy of the world? Do we know where our scientists and PhDs are migrating to? Data has to help us dispel all those myths and let our decisions and our criteria be based by rational thoughts and understanding, and not by fear, which is the situation right now.
Well, can you give us some examples of how we can use data to frame some of these important conversations?
Yes. So, for example, I would love to tell you that if you put together all the migrants in the world together, they would become the 5th largest country in the world. Just under Indonesia and before Brazil. And that actually is 255 million people, but it's only 3% of the world population. Or I would like to also tell you that migrants sent last year only $450 billion home to developing countries, and they do that every year. And that's 3 times the amount of money of all international aid together to developing countries. Yet, migrants spend 85% of all the money they make in the country where they live. So do you think that would change the nature of when you think of migrants as, like a scary? Then you have a different perspective of framing the issue when you know the data.
Well, and when I listen to the amazing stories in your podcast, like Brenda's, right, it really helps to help those numbers on the screen just come to life.
Well, it's because we are all human. And we can't forget we are all human, and that is the main principle of the podcast. And every one of our podcasts ends with more knowledge on the issues that we're addressing because we provide accurate data on them, but also because we're aiming to give solutions and actions for the people that are listening so that they can they know how to take action to solve those problems. So in every one of our podcasts, we try to give you 3 important facts that we want you to use and inform your community. So we call them the 3 things that you should know to show off with your mother-in-law. And but it's actually very interesting when you have a coffee with your friends and you're like, oh, did you know that? The people in this audience, I regard as some of the brightest people in the world. So it is very important for me to tell you how important it is for the world that you communicate with your community about the global goals, that you share with everyone that you know what the data is saying about those global goals. It is critical that humankind know what the measuring stick, but also what their rights are. This is an opportunity, I think that coming here, and that's why I feel so humbled to be here, because this is an opportunity to make an invitation for all of you to use the power of crowdsourcing to raise awareness about the global goals, not only today, but throughout the year.
Well, and I know that many in this audience work for organizations that are already contributing to the global goals. So please, reach out to your local SAS team and tell them what your organization cares about. We want to know. Or if you want, just tweet us at GatherIQ and tell us what matters to you. Let's be curious about the good that we can do in the world together.
That's great. And the more, let's remember, the more you can work together, the better chance we have to actually achieve the global goals. People, individuals, that makes all of us here. That's at the heart of the Sustainable Development Goals of the global goals. And if we are to achieve them, we have to work together. So if you want to learn more and get inspired, maybe get some hints on the actions that you can take individually, please do not forget to check our website, theglobalgoalscast.org, and subscribe to us in Apple, iTunes, or wherever you get your podcast from.
Claudia, thank you so much for just sharing your insights with us tonight. And thank you all for your continued support and for your feedback. Please remember to subscribe and listen to the Global Goals Cast. Check out the GatherIQ app on a PC or mobile device, and have a wonderful conference. Thank you.
Have a great conference. Thank you for having us.